Supreme Overlord Zak'thul stood 12 feet tall on his command platform, his obsidian armor gleaming under the carefully choreographed lighting of his flagship's bridge. In his cape, a magnificent piece of engineering that somehow defied physics by billowing dramatically in the vacuum of space, that swept behind him as he gestured toward the holographic projection of Earth. "Behold, pathetic inhabitants of the third rock from your mediocre star." Zak'thul's voice boomed across the galaxy. It transmitted through quantum channels to every major population center on Earth. "I am Supreme Overlord Zak'thul, conqueror of 47 star systems, crusher of dreams, and harvester of despair. Your pitiful world has been selected for the honor of joining my vast empire." The orchestral music swelled behind him. Zak'thul always traveled with a full symphony orchestra for dramatic effect. It was expensive, but conquest was all about presentation. "You have precisely 72 of your Earth hours to surrender unconditionally. Bow before my magnificence, or watch as your world burns in the fires of my wrath. Choose wisely, for this is your only warning." The hologram flickered off with a satisfying dramatic flourish. Meanwhile, in the hastily assembled crisis room beneath the Pentagon, Ambassador Jake Murphy sat back in his chair and started a slow clap. The former stand-up comedian turned diplomat had seen worse performances at open mic nights in Cleveland. "Well, that was something," Murphy said, his voice carrying the practiced timing of someone who'd bombed on stage enough times to appreciate genuine entertainment. "Did you see that cape work? I mean, the physics make no sense, but the commitment to the bit is impressive." General Rita Kowalski, a woman who'd stared down dictators from 3 continents without blinking, nodded thoughtfully. "The lighting setup alone must have cost millions. Very professional." Dr. Elena Vasquez, the world's leading xenobiologist, was taking notes. "The vocal modulation is fascinating. He's clearly put a lot of work into that intimidating growl. Though I have to say, the whole 47 star systems thing sounds like padding his resume." "Should we be, panicking?" asked Marcus Wong, the tech specialist who'd been hastily recruited from Silicon Valley. "Because that seemed like a pretty standard surrender or die speech." Murphy shrugged. "I've heard worse material. The delivery was solid, but the content was pretty derivative. Classic Overlord tropes. Though I'll give him points for the orchestra. That's a nice touch most dictators skip." The room fell silent for a moment as everyone processed the situation. Finally, General Kowalski spoke up. "So what's our response?" Murphy grinned. "We send a thank you note." Within an hour, Earth's official response was transmitted back to Zak'thul's fleet. Ambassador Murphy appeared on screen, wearing his best diplomatic smile. "Greetings, Supreme Overlord Zak'thul. On behalf of the people of Earth, I want to thank you for that absolutely stunning performance. The production values were off the charts, and your delivery was spot on. We're genuinely impressed." He paused, consulting his notes. "We're particularly curious about your cape technology. Our physics department is baffled but fascinated. Also, if you're ever looking for a change of pace, I know some talent agents who would love to represent someone with your stage presence." The transmission ended with Murphy giving a thumbs up. Aboard his flagship, Zak'thul stared at the dark screen for a full minute before turning to his lieutenant. "Commander Vex'tal, did they just compliment my performance?" "I believe so, Supreme Overlord. They seem to have enjoyed your conquest announcement." Zak'thul's 3 eyes blinked in sequence. In 47 successful conquests, this had never happened before. Commander Vex'tal was what you might call a professional problem solver. When worlds didn't surrender fast enough, he made them surrender faster. When populations showed insufficient fear, he gave them reasons to be more afraid. He'd been Zak'thul's right-hand alien for 15 years, and he'd never encountered a problem that couldn't be solved with more intimidation. Earth was proving to be his first real challenge. "Perhaps they didn't understand the gravity of our threat," Vex'tal suggested, his 4 arms gesturing dismissively. "These humans appear to be a simple species. Allow me to clarify our position." His next transmission was a masterpiece of menace. Vex'tal appeared on every screen on Earth, his battle armor crackling with energy, his voice a perfect blend of rage and contempt. "Foolish humans, you dare mock the Supreme Overlord? Witness the power you have chosen to defy." The transmission cut to a live feed of their flagship's primary weapon charging up. Behold, the stellar annihilator, capable of cracking planets like eggs. To demonstrate, Vex'tal had his weapons crew target a nearby asteroid. The massive energy beam lanced out, striking the space rock with enough force to split it cleanly in half. The explosion was visible from Earth's surface. This is what awaits your world if you continue this foolish resistance. Surrender now or face obliteration. The transmission ended with Vex'tal's most intimidating glare, a look that had broken the will of countless civilizations. Back on Earth, the crisis room erupted in applause. Did you see that targeting precision? Dr. Vasquez was practically bouncing in her chair. The beam coherence was incredible, and the explosion absolutely beautiful. Marcus Wong was already uploading the footage to social media. This is going viral. Alien Laser Show is trending worldwide. People are calling it the best special effects they've ever seen. General Kowalski was more practical. The energy requirements for that weapon must be enormous. The engineering alone is impressive. We should definitely nominate them for some kind of technical achievement award. Ambassador Murphy was scribbling notes. The dramatic timing was perfect. The pause before the explosion, the way the camera held on the destruction, this guy's got serious chops. Within hours, Earth's response went out. This time Dr. Vasquez took point, appearing on screen with genuine scientific enthusiasm. Commander Vex'tal. That was absolutely incredible. The precision of your targeting system, the energy efficiency of your weapon were just blown away. Our entire scientific community is buzzing with questions about your technology. She held up a tablet filled with equations. We've been analyzing the spectral data from your demonstration, and we're curious about your power source. Is that a controlled fusion reaction or something more exotic? Also, our Hollywood special effects teams are dying to know how you achieve that lighting effect on your armor. The transmission continued with Dr. Vasquez asking increasingly technical questions about the aliens' weapon systems, treating the whole thing like a fascinating scientific conference rather than a threat. Aboard the flagship, Vex'tal stared at the screen in complete bewilderment. Supreme Overlord, they're asking for technical specifications. They want to know about our power coupling systems. Zak'thul's cape twitched with agitation. Did she just ask if we'd be interested in consulting on their entertainment productions? I believe so, Supreme Overlord. She also mentioned something about a Nobel Prize nomination. For the first time in his conquest career, Zak'thul was at a complete loss. Fear was universal. Every species they'd encountered had the same basic response to overwhelming force, terror, followed by surrender. These humans seemed to be treating his displays of power like some sort of interactive science exhibition. Perhaps, Vex'tal ventured carefully, they don't understand that we intend to kill them? How could they not understand? Zak'thul's voice cracked slightly. We vaporized an asteroid. We threatened to crack their planet. How much clearer can we be? Should I try more threats, Supreme Overlord? Zak'thul's three eyes narrowed. No. No more threats. We're going to Earth. If they want a demonstration of our power, they'll get one in person. The invasion fleet began moving toward Earth, Zak'thul's frustration growing with every parsec they traveled. When 300 alien warships suddenly appeared in Earth's orbit, the response was immediate and coordinated. Military satellites tracked their movements, world leaders held emergency sessions, and the media went into overdrive. What nobody expected was the carnival. Ladies and gentlemen, this is absolutely unprecedented. The news anchor's voice carried a mixture of excitement and disbelief. The alien fleet has just taken position above major population centers worldwide, and the response from citizens has been, well, it's been a party. The camera panned across Times Square, where someone had set up a massive screen showing live feeds of the alien ships. Food trucks lined the streets. Vendors were selling "I Survived the Alien Invasion" T-shirts, and someone had organized a flash mob that was currently performing synchronized dance moves to welcome their new alien overlords. Marcus Wong was in his element, live streaming the entire event to a global audience that had swelled to over 2 billion viewers. This is insane, guys. Look at this crowd. It's like the Super Bowl and Comic-Con had a baby with New Year's Eve. He swung his camera around to capture the scene. Check this out, someone's brought an entire marching band. And are those food trucks? Oh my God, there's a guy selling alien-themed hot dogs. The enthusiasm was infectious. Social media exploded with alien welcome party posts. People were taking selfies with the ships in the background, rating the different designs and placing bets on which ones would win in a hypothetical space battle. General Kowalski watched the chaos from her command center, shaking her head in amazement. In 40 years of military service, I've never seen anything like this. The civilian population is treating this like the biggest entertainment event in history. Should we be concerned about panic? Asked one of her aides. Panic? Look at this. She gestured to the screens showing celebrations around the globe. London's organized a concert. Tokyo's having a costume contest. Someone in Rio is selling alien pinatas. If this is panic, it's the most festive panic I've ever seen. Meanwhile, Ambassador Murphy was fielding calls from every major entertainment company on the planet. No, I cannot get you merchandising rights. Yes, I'll ask about autographs. No, we're not booking them for the Grammy Awards. Yet. Aboard his flagship, Zak'thul watched the Earth celebrations with growing bewilderment. His invasion fleet, the terror of the galaxy, was being treated like a touring circus. Supreme Overlord, one of his officers, reported, "We're receiving thousands of transmissions from the surface. They appear to be invitations. Invitations to what? Parties? Supreme Overlord. Also requests for tours of our ships, autographs, and something called photo opportunities. Several humans have asked if we're single." Zak'thul's cape drooped. "Are they mocking us?" "I don't believe so, Supreme Overlord. They seem genuinely excited about our arrival." One human asked if we accept PayPal for merchandise. The Supreme Overlord stared at the planet below, watching the lights of a million celebration parties twinkling across the surface. Somewhere down there, humans were probably having the time of their lives, completely oblivious to the fact that they were supposed to be cowering in terror. "Commander Vex'tal," he said slowly, "I'm beginning to think these humans might be insane. Should we commence the invasion, Supreme Overlord?" Zak'thul looked at the party raging below. Every instinct told him to attack, to crush this defiance, to show these humans the true meaning of fear. But another part of him, a part he'd buried deep beneath years of conquest and intimidation, was curious about these strange beings who threw parties for their would-be conquerors. "No," he said finally, "we're going down there. If they want to meet us so badly, we'll give them what they want." Zak'thul's shuttlecraft touched down in Central Park to the sound of applause. Actual applause. From humans who had arranged themselves in bleacher seating like they were watching a football game. "This is not how invasions are supposed to go," Zak'thul muttered to Commander Vex'tal as they emerged from their craft. "Perhaps we should have read their cultural briefing more carefully, Supreme Overlord." A woman approached them, completely unafraid, wearing a badge that read Dr. Elena Vasquez, Official Alien Greeting Committee. She was followed by a man with a microphone and a camera crew. Supreme Overlord Zak'thul. "Dr. Elena Vasquez, xenobiologist. We're so excited to meet you in person. Your ship design is absolutely gorgeous. Is that a biometallic hull? And your cape. The engineering on that fabric behavior is incredible." Zak'thul blinked all three eyes. What, you're not afraid?" "Afraid? Are you kidding? This is the greatest day in human history. We've been waiting our whole lives for first contact." She gestured to the crowd, which was now chanting speech. "Speech. Speech. Everyone wants to know about your technology, your culture, your conquest techniques. Oh, and someone from the Fashion Institute wants to know about your armor design." The Supreme Overlord looked around at the excited faces, the cameras, the general air of festivity. This was supposed to be the moment when his enemies cowered before his might. Instead, it felt like a press conference. "Right," he said, straightening his cape. "Perhaps you didn't understand our previous communications. We're here to conquer your world." The crowd cheered. We're going to subjugate your entire species." Or cheering. "We'll strip your planet of resources and enslave your population." The crowd went wild. Someone started a wave. Zak'thul turned to Vex'tal. "I think they're broken. Desperate to restore some sense of proper invasion protocol, Zak'thul ordered his warriors to demonstrate their combat prowess. 1,000 alien soldiers formed perfect ranks and began an elaborate synchronized combat drill, their weapons crackling with energy as they moved in flawless coordination. The humans loved it. "Oh my God, it's like watching the world's most dangerous dance troupe." Marcus Wong was practically vibrating with excitement as he live-streamed the display. "Look at that precision. The choreography is incredible." The crowd began clapping along to the rhythm of the combat drill. Someone started playing music from a nearby speaker, and the alien demonstration accidentally became the galaxy's first interspecies musical number. "This is a combat demonstration," Zak'thul shouted over the applause. "We're showing you our military might. It's beautiful." Dr. Vasquez called back. "The synchronization, the weapon effects, this is art. Pure art." Zak'thul's eye twitched. For his next demonstration, he ordered his troops to capture several humans for interrogation. The selected humans, a random assortment of tourists and locals, were beamed aboard his flagship. 20 minutes later, Zak'thul was sitting in his command chair, staring at the humans he'd captured, who were busily taking selfies with his bridge equipment. "Excuse me," one of them said, a middle-aged man from Iowa. "Could you sign this?" "It's for my daughter. She's studying alien cultures in college." "You're supposed to be terrified," Zak'thul said weakly. "Terrified? This is amazing. Your ship is incredible. Is this where you plan your conquests?" "Oh, and could you show us how those holographic displays work?" A woman from the group was examining his command throne. "This upholstery is gorgeous. Where did you get it? The color really brings out your eyes. All three of them." Dr. Vasquez, who had somehow talked her way aboard, was offering helpful suggestions. "You know, if you moved those control panels about 3 feet to the left, you'd have much better dramatic lighting for your holographic projections. And have you considered adding some background music during your threats? It really enhances the atmosphere." Zak'thul buried his face in his hands. "This is supposed to be an interrogation." "Oh, are you going to ask us questions?" The man from Iowa perked up. "I love trivia. Is this like a game show? We want to know your weaknesses." Zak'thul exploded. "Your military capabilities. Your planetary defenses." "Well, our military is pretty standard," the woman said helpfully. "Mostly human-built stuff. Nothing as cool as your gear. As for weaknesses, I guess we're probably too trusting. We tend to throw parties for our would-be conquerors. And we love good entertainment," added the man from Iowa. "Speaking of which, do you do parties? Because my nephew is getting married next month, and your light show would be perfect for the reception." Zak'thul stared at them. "You want to hire me for a wedding? The pay is pretty good. Plus, you'd get to keep all the leftover cake." Zak'thul's breakdown began quietly. It started with a small twitch in his left eye and progressed to full-blown cape agitation. By the time he was pacing his bridge, muttering to himself about proper invasion protocol and fear-based compliance, his crew was beginning to worry. Supreme Overlord, Commander Vex'tal, approached cautiously. "Perhaps we should reconsider our strategy." "Reconsider?" Zak'thul whirled around, his cape creating a dramatic spiral effect. "Vex'tal, I have conquered 47 star systems." 47. Each one followed the same pattern. I arrive, I threaten, they cower, they surrender. It's a simple formula that has never failed. Yes, Supreme Overlord, but these humans. Zak'thul's voice cracked. These impossible, incomprehensible humans. They cheer at my threats. They applaud my weapons demonstrations. They want to hire me for their social gatherings. Down on Earth, the cultural exchange was reaching absurd levels. Several of Zak'thul's junior officers had been invited to a barbecue in Texas, where they were currently learning to line dance. The footage, courtesy of Marcus Wong's ubiquitous live streaming, showed 8-foot-tall alien warriors attempting to master the electric slide while wearing full battle armor. "This is Command Officer Vex'tal reporting from what the humans call a cookout," one of the aliens said into Wong's camera. "The local humans have been most hospitable. They've shared their recreational combustion rituals, and taught us a coordinated locomotion pattern called the cha-cha slide. The alien demonstrated the move, his battle armor clanking rhythmically. And to the left, to the left, to the right, and to the right. The humans cheered and joined in, creating the galaxy's first interspecies dance-off. Back on the flagship, Zak'thul watched this footage with growing horror. My elite shock troops are square dancing. Line dancing, Supreme Overlord Vex'tal corrected. Square dancing is apparently different. I don't care what it's called. They're supposed to be inspiring terror, not learning human recreational activities. The situation deteriorated further when Ambassador Murphy requested a formal meeting. Zak'thul agreed, hoping for a traditional surrender ceremony. Instead, he found himself sitting across from Murphy in what appeared to be a job interview. So, Zak'thul, can I call you Zach? I've been watching your work, and I have to say you've got serious potential. Potential for what? Entertainment. Your stage presence is incredible. The voice, the cape, the dramatic timing, you're a natural performer. Have you ever considered a career change? Zak'thul stared at him. A career change? Think about it. You've got this whole conqueror persona down to an art form. But instead of actually conquering people, you could entertain them. The theater world would go crazy for your act. My act? The intimidating alien overlord thing. It's brilliant. You could tour the galaxy, maybe get a TV show. I'm thinking something like Keeping Up with the Overlords or Extreme Makeover, Planetary Edition. Murphy pulled out a business card. I know people in the industry. I could make some calls, set up some meetings. The market for alien entertainment is completely untapped right now. Zak'thul looked at the business card. You want to be my talent agent? I want to help you realize your true potential. Look, between you and me, the whole conquest thing seems to be stressing you out. When's the last time you enjoyed your work? The question hit Zak'thul like a photon torpedo. When had he last enjoyed his work? When had conquest become a chore rather than a passion? When had he started going through the motions, delivering the same threats, following the same pattern, system after system after system? Zak'thul's voice was barely a whisper. I don't remember. Murphy leaned forward. Zach, you've got a gift. Don't waste it on something that clearly isn't making you happy anymore. Life's too short even for apparently immortal alien overlords. That night, Zak'thul stood alone on his observation deck, staring down at Earth. The planet sparkled with the lights of a civilization that had welcomed him with open arms, even as he'd threatened to destroy them. For the first time in decades, he allowed himself to think about what he actually wanted. The truth was, he'd become Supreme Overlord almost by accident. He'd been a theater major on his home planet, specializing in dramatic performance. The whole conquest thing had started as a bit of method acting that got wildly out of hand. Somewhere along the way, the performance had become his life, and he'd forgotten there was anything else. Supreme Overlord? Vex'tal found him there, staring at the stars. Vex'tal, do you remember why we started this? The conquering? To be honest, Supreme Overlord, I thought it was for the money. But we haven't actually collected payment from any of the worlds we've conquered. We just move on to the next one. And before that? Before that, you said it was for the glory. But we've never stayed anywhere long enough to enjoy any glory. And before that? Vex'tal was quiet for a long moment. Before that, you said it was because you were good at it. Zak'thul nodded slowly. I was good at it. But I was good at other things too. I had other dreams once. What kind of dreams, Supreme Overlord? The kind that didn't involve conquering anyone. The next morning, Zak'thul called a press conference. Not a conquest announcement, not a surrender demand, an actual press conference. The entire world tuned in, expecting another dramatic threat. Instead, they got something unprecedented: honesty. People of Earth, Zak'thul began, his voice surprisingly subdued. I owe you an apology. The crowd fell silent. Even Marcus Wong stopped live streaming for a moment, struck by the genuine emotion in the alien's voice. For the past 15 years, I've been traveling the galaxy, conquering worlds, inspiring fear, building an empire. I told myself it was for glory, for power, for the natural order of things. But the truth is, I was just stuck. He paused, his cape settling around him like a comfort blanket, rather than a symbol of power. I used to be an actor, you know. Back on my home world before all this. I loved the theater, loved performing, loved making people feel things. But somewhere along the way, I convinced myself that fear was the only emotion worth inspiring. That conquest was the only role worth playing. Dr. Vasquez stepped forward. What changed your mind? You did. All of you. Zak'thul gestured to the crowd. You looked at my threats and saw entertainment. You looked at my weapons and saw art. You looked at my invasion and saw a party. You refused to be afraid, and in doing so, you showed me something I'd forgotten. What's that? Ambassador Murphy asked gently. That there are better ways to make people feel something. That there are better stories to tell than conquest and fear. That maybe, just maybe, I could try being myself again instead of playing this character I've been trapped in for so long. The crowd was completely silent now, hanging on every word. So I'm not going to conquer Earth. I'm not going to conquer anyone else either. I'm going to try something different, something that actually makes me happy. Like what? Someone called out. Zak'thul smiled, the first genuine smile he'd worn in years. Like telling stories. Like making people laugh instead of making them afraid. Like remembering who I used to be before I became who I thought I had to be. The crowd erupted in applause, but this time it was different. It wasn't the enthusiastic, entertainment-seeking applause of before. This was the warm, supportive applause of people who recognized a fellow being finding their way back to themselves. Over the following months, Zak'thul did indeed become Earth's first alien stand-up comedian. His routine, 47 Ways I Failed to Conquer the Galaxy, became an instant classic. He talked about the planets that surrendered so quickly he felt bad about it, the worlds that tried to conquer him back, and the species that invited him to their religious ceremonies as a deity of theatrical intimidation. But his best material was always about Earth. So there I was. He'd say, his timing perfect after years of dramatic speeches, full invasion fleet, planet-cracking weapons, 47 worlds behind me, and these humans, these beautiful, impossible humans, they threw me a welcome party. A welcome party. I'm trying to inspire existential dread, and they're asking if I accept PayPal for merchandise. The audience would roar with laughter, and Zak'thul would feel that warm glow of connection that he'd forgotten existed. It was better than fear. It was better than conquest. It was the feeling of bringing joy to others, of sharing something real and honest and human, even if he wasn't technically human himself. His former invasion fleet became his tour crew, with Commander Vex'tal as his manager. The warriors who had once struck fear into the hearts of civilizations now handled sound equipment and sold t-shirts. They seemed happier too, freed from the burden of being constantly terrifying. You know what the best part is? Zak'thul told Ambassador Murphy during one of their regular coffee meetings. I'm actually better at this than I ever was at conquering. Who would have thought that 47 failed conquests would make for better comedy material than 47 successful ones? Murphy grinned. Sometimes the best stories come from the times we don't get what we thought we wanted. Wise words from my first Earth friend and talent agent. Don't forget the 10%. Zak'thul laughed, a sound that would have been impossible during his conquering days. Fair enough. Though I still think you humans are completely insane for throwing a party for your would-be conquerors. Maybe, Murphy said, but our particular brand of insanity seems to work out pretty well. And as Zak'thul prepared for his next show, a sold-out performance at Madison Square Garden, he had to admit that Murphy was right. Sometimes the best defense against fear was simply refusing to be afraid. Sometimes the best response to a threat was to see the person behind it who was just trying to figure out their place in the universe. Sometimes the most human thing you could do was help someone else remember how to be human too, even if they weren't human at all. The Supreme Ruler had demanded fear. The humans had given him laughter. And in the end, everyone was better off for it.